Good morning and welcome to AI Daily. We have three big stories for you here today, so let's just jump in. Our first story is about a LIMA model. This is pretty cool. This is a pretty large model here. Let's pull it up real quick. Um, can you tell us a little bit about this one, Connor?
Yeah, so it's a 65 billion parameter llama model, but instead of doing the real-time feedback, real-time learning through human feedback, they did a little bit of a fine tune on just 1,000 carefully curated responses. And apparently it performed almost as well as GPT-4
Yeah,
and better than Bard and better than Da Vinci.
yeah. It looks here like it's almost as good as GPT-4, and it seems like maybe sometimes it did better even. But that's pretty impressive. What does this mean, Ethan?
Well, I mean, this is Meta again dropping another open source model. We'll see how the weights move, et cetera. But Meta's keeping up to date, first with Llama and now with Lima. And like Connor said, 65 billion parameters. So a pretty small model compared to something like GPT-3 or GPT-4. And instead of using all this human feedback like the other models do, they took 1,000 supervised examples and they simply fine tuned on that. And like Connor said, they saw, I think, what was it, 43% better responses in certain cases versus GPT-4, which is a top of the class model. So important because Meta's staying on top of the open source AI realm, and secondly because we have another open source model getting closer and closer to competing with these huge models being trained by OpenAI.
This is another take on alignment, really. We see how OpenAI does the human feedback. We've seen how Anthropic does the constitutional parameters.
Yep.
And Lima out of Meta is now fine tuning on very carefully curated responses. So we'll see what wins out here, but it's another great way to do it. It looks like so.
Yeah.
Connor, what do you think is the advantage in this approach?
Of course, it takes a lot less input than human feedback takes.
Right.
This still looks like it probably takes more input than Anthropic's constitutional, but just 1,000 prompts and responses carefully curated, a good-sized team can do that pretty quickly. So
Yeah,
Yep.
that's pretty impressive. I wonder how long they've been working on it. Well, nice to see Meta continuing to flex their muscles in the open source AI space, or open space. It wouldn't put it past them by any stretch. Let's move on to our next story. CoDi. This is pretty cool. I'm gonna load this up. Can you tell us a little bit about this, Ethan, while I get it loaded up here on the window?
Yeah, so CoDi is what they call any to any generation. They're using compositional diffusion. And I guess the simplest way to put it is, most of these models you're taking in text, right? Stable diffusion, you give it a prompt, you take in some text, and it's going to output some audio. Or maybe you put in some text and you get a text output, like an LLM. But CoDi is a take on kind of multimodal that some people talk about. So you can put in, just like you're scrolling through, they have some really cool examples. You can put in text and an audio clip and get some video taken out of that. So you put in some audio of a polar bear laughing and you put in some text of a polar bear, sitting next to a branch, and you're going to get a video of something like that. Same thing vice versa. So you can put in text and another text and you get a completely new output based on those two things. So really important, to understand context of the world. Whether you give it a video, you need to understand the audio of that video, you need to understand what's happening in that video, and maybe a text description. And that's the way you get complete context out of it. So multimodal, super important. They had some really great examples in there. And yeah, it's pretty cool.
This looks a lot like something Meta dropped maybe a week or two ago, but this
It
looks like
does.
this is maybe the open source model. Is that right, Connor?
yeah, Meta dropped Image Bind a couple weeks ago. That was their like multimodality entrance, you could say. And this composable diffusion looks like an open source, maybe even a better version of it. We haven't seen them compared head to head yet, but could be. So
Can we use this yet, Connor? Do you know? Have
I
you dug
believe
into it at
I,
all? Looks
I
like they have
believe
the code available, don't they?
yeah, I believe the code's available. Yeah.
This is some powerful, freaky stuff here. Very cool, very cool. So let's move on to our last story here, which is mind meets video. There have been a few other examples of this type of thing out there. They all seem, you know, a little bit earlier than maybe the demos seem to imply. I don't know if you can see this here. There's a ground truth video, a reconstructed video. The idea here is they're sort of scanning your brain and trying to understand what video you're sort of remembering. Connor, can you tell us a little bit about how they constructed this this little experiment and demo?
Yeah, my understanding is they have their training set, which is they take fMRIs of a large group of people watching a large group of videos, and they pair up each fMRI with each video, of course. And then when they reconstruct it, the model basically looks at the new fMRI data from the new input and then compares that to the data it trained on and finds a video that was similar. So
Yeah.
from this model
It's not
so far,
quite reading your mind, is it? It's sort of saying this is what your mind looks like when you see this or remember this, and it's similar to what other people's minds looked like when they watched this. So let's create something as inspired by that original video, because that must be what's going on through your mind. So we're not quite at mind reading level, but it's still pretty cool and powerful. And I guess you gotta, this may be a way that they can map the human mind. We'll see if there's similarities, if we can just be like, well, okay, we don't have, these ground truth videos anymore, but we know from so many fMRIs that if you're thinking about horses running through a field, these are the parts of your brain that are firing. So we don't, need this other data anymore. We can sort of extrapolate but in the end, you always need some training data to reference things, right? Every AI is using some training data. It's not just going to make things up out of nowhere. Ethan, you look like you're chomping at the bits to say something. So
no, this stuff's just very exciting to me. At least this one is 45% more accurate than some of the ones we've seen in the past. And it almost reminds me, if y'all have watched the Minority Report with Tom Cruise, and they're sitting there reading their minds, and you're getting this video that's outputted that's kind of blurry. You're not entirely sure. But the fact that we really don't know much about how the human brain works and can still reconstruct that, hey, okay, all this is firing and you're probably looking at a giraffe running through the field. I mean, the search space of that is unbelievable. And the fact that these correlate pretty well is really cool to me. So yeah, I was chomping at the bit to say how amazing this is.
It's possible to
get out of my head. Sorry, what's that?
It's possible to take a language model where, like, if you have enough videos, if you have enough MRIs, maybe it could construct something more open, not in the training set.
Yeah.
It's still interesting to see how that progresses. This team previously did another model that was only mind to image. So mind to video is pretty impressive.
Oh, it was the same team?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, yeah. 45% of the time, it works all the time, as they say.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sounds great. Well, those are our three big stories. What are you all seeing out there in the AI world? Ethan, Connor, and feel free to jump in.
I got to see Lambda Labs demos. Lambda Labs is a GPU infrastructure provider. We've used them. We love the team there. And seeing them drop these demos kind of reminds me of, a lot of people are using Hugging Face right now when they want to show off a demo or they want to try something. And Lambda Labs actually, getting away from just being infrastructure kind of commodity and really delving into the whole AI community and the whole AI world, putting these demos together, letting you show off demos, letting you deploy them on Lambda infrastructure is fantastic. So love the team there. Give it a try if you haven't yet.
Let's show Lambda some more. It looks like they're looking for somebody that will let them train a massive LLM. Did I steal your story, Connor? They're you got another one. Yeah, it looks like they're looking for a partner to train an LLM with, which is really cool, really smart on their part, and congrats to anyone who gets the nod for some free LLM training.
100%.
My story was I was reading through some of the ChatGPT 1-star reviews of the ChatGPT app. One of them was works too quickly, ChatGPT types too fast, and the instantaneous answers are unacceptable. So
Unacceptable. Wow.
Another one was disappointed that when he asked the top 10 Chinese restaurants around Round Rock, it didn't have his location data.
Wow. It's a tough crowd. Tough crowd on the internet. I've never heard anyone on the internet give a 1-star review for something or be, ridiculous in their critique of it. So it's really nice to see ChatGPT continuing to push boundaries. As
my last and favorite is that someone was complaining it's an old model from September 2021 and they want $20 a month.
Wow.
So, yep.
The person using it wants $20 a month, or
for plus.
Yeah. Yeah.
It reminds me of those Amazon 1-star reviews. Those are always fun to read through.
Yeah, it's actually pretty cool. I put it into, my home screens. I'm trying to use it a little bit more now. My understanding is they are, assuming Mr. Brockman is correct, they're using Whisper for the audio to text, and it is shockingly good. You can basically mumble at the thing, and it will pick up what you said word for word. I was actually just trying to sort of speak as quickly and not enunciate, and I was shocked the degree of accuracy that it had.
100%. I saw some battery complaints. Was it you who texted that, Connor? Was it like their haptic feedback was kind of hurting the battery?
It may be that the rest of the 1-star reviews, a lot of them were complaining about like their phone overheating, even though it's like a 14 Pro. So maybe that.
No. I find those a little bit hard to believe.
Yeah.
But you never know. Maybe those are some, Samsung trolls that are just trying to
the Bard team
get in there and trash on the iPhone or something like that. That seems reasonable. We'll go with that. Well, fantastic. This was another great episode. It's great to see you, gentlemen, and we'll see you tomorrow for some more AI Daily. Have a great day, everyone.
See you guys.
Peace, guys.